y'all. Welcome to episode 2 of The Vineyard, your weekly dose of fun, of laughter, of banter, and a whole lot of realness. And on this episode, what are we discussing, guys? We're going to be talking about...
A jargon of a word, buana. You can't choose an easier word to say.
It's a big word. We're going to be discussing decision paralysis, and I'm sure you've already seen on the title by now. And I think when I was reflecting on this, it's so funny to me how from 0 to 18, there's no decision you're responsible for.
Yeah.
Everything, everywhere you are, it's a function of your parents. You wake up, you find yourself in school, and everything is literally made up for you. Then one day you wake up and everybody is looking at you.
You can now choose your own soda.
Yeah, imagine. You cannot choose.
And suddenly, there are a variety of sodas.
Yeah.
You were never presented with the choices before because the choice was already
Was
made
always
for you.
made for you. Exactly.
And now you seemingly cannot just be able to
and
make a decision.
You're trusted with big life decisions like choosing a career. I think I even remember when I was 18. You're being told to choose a course. What do you even know about yourself at 18? No, seriously, what do you know? And I think just that transition from when it's like from 17 to 18, you've just finished high school, and now suddenly you're responsible for your life. You're responsible for what you're going to make of yourself. I think it's such a weight sometimes. I just want to throw the question to any of you. Let me just open it up. Whoever is feeling touched can start.
Being emotional.
You're being emotional. You've been provided with the opportunity. Are you being paralyzed? Make the decision to start.
Yeah, make the decision. Now we'll see. If mkianza kusita
I remember right after high school, I had a plan of how I wanted life to look out, to look like rather. Yeah. And my parents also had a plan of how they wanted my life to look like, and we clashed. Yeah. So it looked like I didn't know what I wanted to do to them. Ilikuwa nakanika, this kijana just wants to have fun, but I wanted to unwind. Imagine I'd not stepped into a cinema. Imagine at that age of mine, sijaingia cinema kuona movie. Yeah. So there are a few things that I wanted to do, but my parents considered it as So I was enrolled to a program.
Out of the frying pan.
All I'll say is it's good to make your decisions and to make it clear that it might seem like it's nothing, but to me, this small choice of this is what I want to do, this is how I want life to look like, it should be considered as something that holds weight. I struggled for those 3 months.
Yeah.
Let me confess, I've never even gone for that certificate.
A computer course. What was it?
It was about, okay, if my father sees this way.
He'll probably see it.
He'll definitely see it.
It was a fantastic program. It had computer, it had life skills, it had so many.
Was it a desktop program?
It was something similar in those lines.
It's like our parents have read from the same script. All of them. The same script.
But here we are now.
Here we are.
Hope, how have you navigated decision making up to this point?
Decision making, I think that since I was young, I am very grateful that I had parents that allowed me to be my own person. Period. In fact, I think sometimes my mom usually tells me that, like, she feels as though she extended so much freedom for me since I was young because
of
being
outfits.
Being so proactive. Yeah, I did. In fact, I remember one time when my mom had left me with my dad. My mom had left me with my dad, and I refused to put on uniform to go to school. I had this Thomas the Train sweater that was actually like a crop top then because it had become so small, but I had attachment issues and black heels heels, and I told my dad, this is what I'm going to go to school with. Without it, I'm not going to school. And my dad was like, okay, the child has said. I went with my short dress and my pumps and my
primary
crop top sweater. It was actually preschool, not even primary. It was preschool.
Unique.
So you can actually see that by the time I was young, I already knew how to make decisions for myself. But I think what I found to be a challenge was the options that were available. Sometimes you realize that even when you get to a restaurant and there's a whole menu that is presented before you,
the more the options,
often than not, most people choose to just go back to what they're used to. Because you are spoiled for choice. You do not even know what you're going to do with the options that are presented to you. And I think that was my problem growing up. I think there are so many options that I came across, and I was like, everything just seems so alluring and it seems so amazing, but I feel very ill-equipped to make a decision. So most of the times I just find myself at a crossroad and I delay making important decisions or just end up not making one at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was actually speaking to one of the guys in done my BS. I don't feel like he'll have a problem me mentioning his name.
You're becoming one of those creatures.
Yeah, imagine me, I'll just say your name, by the way. Tell me your stories at your own peril. No, but seriously, I was speaking with he's called Chris, and he's in that stage where he's just finished Form 4, and he is like, I think for the past 6 months, he's just really struggling to determine what he's going to do in campus. 1 week we talk, he wants to do architecture. The next week he wants to be a doctor. And you know the way there are so many. Kwanza, I feel like that decision especially, because you feel like your life, the way it has been presented to us, you feel like your life is cast in stone. If I've decided to do law, I must be a lawyer. And I think what we've come to realize, for very many people, most decisions, and why we struggle sometimes with decision paralysis, you feel like the decision you're making is life or death. Like, I have cast this in future. I've said, like me, I've done pharmacy. Now, there's nothing else I can do with my life. How many lawyers do we have who are just bakers, artists, freestyling it? What's a lawyer? Let me not attack lawyers. A podcasting lawyer. A creative lawyer.
A team builder economist.
Actually, this is the perfect panel. A team building economist. Yeah, so I feel like that decision paralysis, and I'd like to also hear your thoughts on that. Maybe it could also sometimes stem on, we place too much weight on, imagine sometimes just to make the decision. There we just said in episode 1 about just do it. Like, you'll sit there 6 months agonizing over which course to do. Imagine it's not life or death. At the end of you'll do it for 4 years. You can very easily venture, as very many people have done. Many people are not even practicing in their area of
expertise.
training.
Yeah.
If we use career as an example. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on in terms of why do you think people suffer from decision paralysis? What else could it be?
I think at times it's the life and death that you've said, but also too, it can be you feel like you're stuck. You feel like there's nowhere to go. It's easier to comfort zone. It's easier to stay where you know than where you don't know. So you make it a tussle to make a decision or to make up your mind. If you like, if I make up my mind, like if you're growing up, if you start thinking, now where am I going to move to? The reality hits you. You're like, actually, I need to make this decision and make it now. And growth, that's growth, and growth is never easy. Change is never easy. I think so. Those dynamics of now it's changing, now I'm growing. Now I need to get out of my comfort zone. And once you make a decision, hey, man, you have to run with it.
Yeah, being decisive.
If you decide I'm going to the gym and you've paid for the membership, imagine there's no two way about it.
There's no two way about it. And I actually think that, in fact, let me say, for instance, speaking with the example that you've given in mind, for somebody who's stuck between choosing a career, I find that we live in a time where it's very easy to actually switch from something that you don't like. If you're presented with options, many a times we started with people in law school, but then they switched to some different course because they got in. They're like, no, this is not what I was looking for. And they ended up moving on to something.
Does that mean they failed themselves?
And I don't think it did.
Exactly.
Because
that aspect
what you would term as failure is the fact is when you actually never tried at all. But if you tried something and realized it didn't work for you, there's no use forcing issues. Move on to something that is better for you, that has better prospects for you. And I think it's important that even if you're not even gotten into university, take a random walk into the universities and walk into a lecture hall. Most of these lecturers wouldn't even mind whether you're a new face or whatever.
Kwanza in public uni.
Unis do that, man. We hardly ever take, I'm not selling out to university. We hardly ever take roll call because people are actually signing for one another. But just go, sit in a class, sit in a lecture and listen and be like, this is what they discuss here. I did not understand a single thing the lecturer said. I don't think this is my space. Attend as many as you can and find your footing. I think it's because life has been presented to us in a certain rule book and we all feel the need to follow the exact same rule book.
Life is a straight line.
Life is a straight line. It will never be a straight line. Some people find the things they want to do when they're 50. Some are born knowing what they want to do. Just some find it along the way. I think it's important that you understand the options presented to you and ask yourself, so these are the options that I'm struggling with. What can I do to narrow my options?
Yeah, I think that's, I'm thinking about it now based on what you've said. On the flip side, we have, what is it called? There are very many options. You can choose between anything, but how do you get to the point where when you've made a decision, you actually stick to it? Because that's another problem I've realized in our generation. We are very, it has,
Very quick to
changamoto
walk away.
kidogo tu,
We're very quick to walk
kidogo tu,
away. Hautani stress.
highway, hautani stress me. I'm out. So, there's and I feel like that can also really feed into that paralysis that you experience when you're making a decision, because we are very quick to walk away. Like we've just said, very quick to walk away. Like, for example, for the business you want to start, you do 2 months, maybe you've not gotten a client yet. You're like, God must not be here. And it's very important. I think grit comes, which is a vocabulary that is very lacking in a lot of us, and that's resilience to stick through, because decisiveness means I've made a decision. Kingori, you've made a decision to start a business. The good thing, we are your friends, we are holding your account. You've made a decision. You know that you're called to podcasting. Maybe the first 6 months, let's say first year, let's even stretch it.
I have my very faithful two followers who are listening.
We are there commenting 6 times. Putting the clap emojis, the shangwe and everything. So I think maybe what I'd ask us to just think about or to discuss is how do we as young people, or what do we need to do to just build that muscle of being decisive? Like if you make a decision, you actually stick through it. You bear the cross. You count the cost, the whatever it is, so that you can actually see the results you desire to achieve. Because many of us, we give up too fast. You get.
It's because we do not want to suffer. And I mean, we've all wanted a very quick, it's like the flick of a finger and it's a magic wand, whoosh, and the life has happened. If it doesn't work like that, it can't be. Let's move on to the next. I think that it's important that we understand that grit is a muscle you exercise. It is not something that just happens once. It is a muscle that you exercise, and it's constantly putting yourself in challenging situations that will allow you to expand your way of thinking and your way of doing things. I think it's very important that you get that as early as now. And it's also important to appreciate that most of the time, the outcome is never assured. So really, we're all operating on
actually
what ifs.
It's all what life is a big game of what ifs.
It's a big game of what ifs. You might just make this move and then it collapses. You might just make this move and then it works. The important thing is try it out. Imagine just try it out. Sometimes you will actually just need to make that one decision and stick through it. It will not look amazing. It will not look pretty the first few times that you try it. But if you continue pushing and working at it, you will definitely find your masterpiece at the end. Artists will tell you it takes a lot of time before they come up with a masterpiece. Potters have had to crumble their pots that they have made from scratch. It turned out into something and they're like, no, this is not what I wanted. And this is it. In fact, I'll give an example. I think there's an example that is given of 2 sets of people who are divided in a clay class. And one group was told, I need you to just make one pot. And you have to make it perfect. And these other ones were told, make as many as you want and then make the perfect pot. Who do you think?
The many as you want.
Exactly. Because it's in the practice. It's in the practice that you hone the skill. It's the 10,000 hours that you put in. It's not just a one-time thing. So really sometimes it'll have to be 10,000 hours in that one thing, or 10,000 hours distributed in so many other different things until you find your X factor. There's no other way. So it's important that you appreciate that could be your journey. And if that is your journey, imagine just thrive through it.
Just thrive.
Me, I'll say build capacity to shoulder the decisions you want to make. Because at times in hindsight, we lack the capability to actually make that decision. For instance, you want to become a techie guy, but when I ask you, so what languages have you learned in terms of code? You're there looking at me, so it doesn't make sense. You want to make this decision. For me,
I'll Python, Java, and whatever.
As you make the decision and as you stand by the decision, do you have the capacity to actually shoulder that decision? For me, it's big for me because once. And it's a place where you have to sit down and now introspect and see, okay, so I need to do 1, 2, 3. I need to gain more knowledge in terms of this. I need to talk to people who have gone ahead of me. I need to have, there's a day I was writing a business plan. Oh, wow.
And that's not an easy thing to do.
Not an easy, I was like...
Did you come across terms you've never had in your life?
Not even terms, even just putting your words to paper and mastering the craft of this is how you word an official document. This is how you pitch
It's not just
something.
what's in your mind.
And being able to bear the responsibility that comes with that decision and building capacity. I can't emphasize, but build capacity for that decision so that even when you're making it, you have the confidence to say, I made it and I pursued it. So that when you're choosing other alternatives, you're sure that it has failed not because of anything on my end, just because things, I did economics, just because the macroeconomic environment was not there.
Yes. Awesome. I feel like for me, what I'm even thinking about, my mind has just wandered off to, sometimes even with decision paralysis, even the small decisions. Remember we were laughing and speaking about how, like I went for my graduation gown last week, and shangwe. Woo, 5 years of sweat, man. Yeah, so I was going for my graduation gown, and the way they panga it in my school, like there are racks, they're just mini racks, so they put the caps at the back. So now I walked into that room, I was very excited, of course, that season comes. Then I'm just thinking, graduation gowns, they all look the same. They're all black, literally, it's standard. But now I'm there, we are given exactly 10 minutes. That was one of the hardest decisions I've had to make in my life.
And they're all black, they're the same.
They're all the same. Like, I'm there, I'm sweating, I'm panicking. I'm there, I'm trying one gown, I'm trying the next one. I'm trying one
And in your head,
cap.
is there a difference as you're trying them out?
And then I'm wondering, why am I struggling to make... Like, I'm feeling like it's life or death. Nimejaribu like 6 cups. We are fighting there at the mirror because we are all... And I'm wondering, sure. I think after, you don't think about this. So overthinking even... Even your kwanza girls, we are guilty. Yeah, ask, what do you want to eat? You can't make that decision.
Then when I order mine, you eat mine.
No, when you make a suggestion, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I want to eat.
I don't know what I want to eat. Yeah. So I think we need to, truly, just rahisisha our lives, all of us. Like, overthinking can be the enemy when it comes to making decisions and being decisive. I think once you master, and that's something I'm also working towards and growing towards, being decisive even over the mundane decisions, the basic things, so that you're not wasting a lot of brain energy, brain space, where I could be birthing a serious business idea. I've spent all my energy thinking about a graduation gown or what am I going to eat. So I feel like...
But then when you put it like that, it now comes to... Well, like, in hindsight, we spend like 30 minutes deciding what am I eating.
Making basic decisions because I don't know, I think it's something that we need to just be very conscious, all of us, about, so that you're utilizing your energy and your brain space and the wisdom and everything that God has given you to make important decisions.
True.
And in a decisive, clear, concise manner. All right?
I support 100.
I feel like we've been conclusive. I'll just ask anybody who has anything to say as we close this episode to say something small to help anybody who may be struggling.
M-Pesa number.
M-Pesa number.
Call us on 07.
We're decisive. Decide to send us a blessing.
I think on my end, I'll say foundations matter.
Yeah.
Foundations do matter because how you view a decision, how you make a decision, what you base the decision on will be backed by what has been put into effort. I use the example of the reason why a guy will propose is because of the things he has seen. So the decision to pop the question isn't just... And even where to pop it. I remember that day we were talking about how someone popped the question in a local supermarket. You guys were like, can never be me.
Can never be me.
I need to stand in there because what is that?
How now?
So I think the culmination is the decision. So what is it that you're doing for that culmination is what matters on my end. Then it makes it very easy to say, I don't want that car because I know I've done my research. I know it will disturb me because of 1, 2, 3.
So your decision is easier to make because you've empowered yourself with the info. Period.
Wonderful. I like that. I think I would want to end by quoting one of my favorite books in high school. This is probably going to expose my age, but we did The River and the Source. And Margaret Ogola was just genius. Let's just say that. Apart from the fact that she decided to kill all the guys or make them priests.
Very tragic book.
I think one of the most profound quotes that I found in her book was when she said, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all.
Wow.
When I look at it in this context, I'm thinking it's better to have tried and failed than never to have tried at all. So it's very important that when you are presented with options, try.
Yeah.
Try, see that it doesn't work out instead of discounting it even before you tried it. That's it from me.
Beautiful. I think my parting shot is very similar to what we discussed in the first episode. The same way we've just said, just do it. Imagine, just decide. I think we overcomplicate things. Just decide. If you choose a line of action and just stick it out, I think that's what we need to learn, to just develop, like you said, that grit, that muscle, make that decision, see things through. Make the decision. And in whatever it is, whether it's that outfit, whether it's a big life decision, like the many examples we've given over the course of this episode and the discussions that we've had, imagine just make that decision, count the cost, carry the cross, and just, and let this decision paralysis thing be, a thing that we hear in books, not something that we relate to.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think, thank you for joining us at the Vineyard episode 2. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you. How many minutes?
What are jokes?